Welcome to the network, the educational podcast designed to help our community navigate the four areas of life that I like to call the funky four corners. I've had the opportunity to interview some of my favorite people with one goal in mind: to help the spiritual, physical, mental, and financial health of our people as we navigate this thing called life. Subscribe to the network. You never know, you might need it. Listen, welcome back to the network. In the words of the great American poet, Lonnie Rashid Lynn, you probably know him as Common. From Inglewood to a single hood in Botswana, I see the I in we, my brother, yours is my drama. Standing in front of the judge with no honor, my raps ignite the people like Obama. Today, network, the educational podcast that is designed to help our community navigate spiritually, physically, mentally, and financially. We're going to talk about how Black music, faith, politics, and the pursuit of wellness is so necessary in our community. Today's guest, Dr. Naja K. Baptist, is an associate professor of political science at the Sylvia G. Schwartz Endowed Chair at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. He is also the director of African and African American Studies and the founding director of the University Advanced Research Team. Hold on, I got more. He is a two-time National Science Foundation grant awardee, a three-time HBCU graduate, North Carolina Central, for his BA, MA from the Jackson State University, and a PhD in political science from Howard University. His work has appeared in numerous journals, including the National Political Science Review, the Journal of Race and Ethnicity, Politics, Groups and Identities, amongst others. Dr. Baptist's work is primarily focused on Black politics and political choice. His new book, In the Spirit, in the Dark, Black Music and Political Activism, is coming in February of 2026, published by the New York University Press. I need y'all to welcome with your real hands and with your virtual hands, Dr. Naja Baptist.
Appreciate you, man. That's a heck of an intro.
Hey, man, listen, I'm just reading back the words that are given to me. All right, so here's what we're going to do, Doc. We start every episode with flowers. So before we dive into today's topics, who are you giving flowers to while they can still smell?
Oh man, listen, that's like a whole garden for me, man. First person I want to give flowers to is the bishop of my church, Bishop A.D. Cunningham of the United House of Prayer for All People, and then I want to give flowers to my wife, Madison Baptist, and our daughter Mallory, and then to my father, C.D. Baptist, my sister Akila Baptist, my brother Dwight Baptist. I want to give flowers to all of my mentors that are still around. Dr. Floyd W. Hayes III, who introduced me to the intersection of political science and Africana studies, who wrote the book Turbulent Voyage. He was my first professor at North Carolina State. I want to give flowers to my professors from North Carolina Central, Dr. Jarvis Hall and Dr. Artemisia Stanberry, who took me on as a non-traditional student and allowed me to come into Central and kind of refocus. I also want to give a shout out to Dr. DeAndre Orr, Beta Theta 86. He's at Jackson State. He found me at a conference and found funding for me to come to Jackson State and kind of put me on the road of more experimental political science. And then, of course, all of my mentors from Howard University, Dr. Neon B. Carter, Dr. Darrell Harris, Dr. Clarence Lucene, and of course, my dissertation chair, who's now retired, Dr. Lorenzo Morris. And also from high school, Dr. Maurice Pettiford, who kind of found a fledgling high school student who needed some redirecting and some pivoting and put me on the road to do great things. So those are just a few flowers, man. I could go on and on. We could spend the whole podcast talking about how many people, because it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes an even bigger village for a man to be able to thrive. So I can go on and on.
That's man. That's good stuff. So now that you've given those flowers, let's talk about the soil that you grew out of.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So if I met a young Naja at your home church,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What would I have seen? So who was shaping your view of God, your view of blackness, and
Mm-hmm.
your view of politics back
Yeah,
then?
yeah. So growing up, it was interesting because I always say, and even on my Instagram page, I say I'm the son of a preacher man and a teacher woman. My mother was one of the first Head Start teachers, and my father was a minister and is a minister with the United House of Prayer now for 50 years. So, had you encountered me at a young age, you would have seen a young deacon, right? Um, you come to service and I would be singing for almost an hour or so, singing my heart out. And then kind of this community of older black people that took the time to instill so much love and knowledge into me, right? Um, my Sunday school teacher, uh, Saint McClary, I see her every year now when I go back to Charlotte because I'm a minister now at Baptism in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she reminds me every year that I was her favorite student, and um, you know, she should say that she should tell my mother that she hoped, that she knew I was going to do great things. My mother always used to tell her, I hope so. Right. So, this village, this church, and this doctrine that showed us that we could have an identity, that we are rooted in something more than just the daily lived experience of oppression and domination, that the freedom was beyond the materialistic things that we have. And like the old church song used to say, if you live right, heaven belongs to you. And to see, what Stuckey calls the ring shout, to see people shouting together. The Bible said, let the young and the old worship together. And to be able to see that and to be able to witness people swap their troubles for joy. It was something unlike you ever seen before growing up. I also played on the church band with me and my older brother Dwight. Learning how to play a musical instrument at a young age of like 10 years old. And studies have now come out talked about the influence and the impact of children learning instruments at a young age. And it's not just, the trombone that I learned, but the singing as well. It does something to the brain, physically, but to the spirit, metaphysically, right? Because in that moment, I'm learning the beginning of how to connect with something higher than myself, how to get away from the problems of the world. And when you're a kid, man, you don't think about, you know, troubles. You hear people talk about troubles. You hear older people testifying about things that they go through and things that they have to deal with and things they have to encounter. And you don't understand it, but at that moment they are pouring into you and giving you pearls of life, right? They are preparing you for what is ahead and telling you that you could persevere through it, that you need something to help you get through. There used to be a song that younger sisters used to sing called how do you plan to carry this heavy load? How do you plan to cross this rugged road? Don't you get lonely traveling both night and day? Don't you know you need Jesus every step of the way? right? So it told us we can't
Yeah.
just limit ourselves, but everybody else around us.
Man, that's good. So what I want to do, man, is because you were really segueing into one of the places that I will go,
Yeah, yeah,
right? But we gonna pull it back so that we can go forward. All right,
yeah,
we're gonna pull it back so that we can go forward. So,
mm-hmm.
man, some good information that you just gave us about your upbringing, right?
Yeah,
So not just academic, but spiritual, right? So the the cornerstone of this podcast is something that I like to call the funky four corners of life, right? So we are
yeah,
here to
oh yeah,
help people who are listening and watching spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially. So while we're
mm-hmm.
here, let's tap into this spiritual corner. You said that the best spiritual advice that you have been given is trust God because
Mm-hmm.
everything is going to be all right. So here's what
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you. How has Black spirituality formed a moral compass for how we move through racism, grief,
Oh yeah,
struggles? That's the first part. And then the second thing is, because you started talking about some hymns, right? You
mm-hmm.
started talking
Mm-hmm.
about some hymns there. So, what are
Mm-hmm.
the hymns, the gospel songs, maybe
Yeah,
some protest songs
yeah,
that can kind of serve as scripture for the Black struggle? So,
right,
first
right.
question is, how has Black spirituality formed that moral compass?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, there are ad nauseum of books from Black scholars talking about African spirituality, Black spirituality, and what that means, right? But when you really break it down to what African spirituality or Black spirituality really is, it's the ability to be able to persevere in the face of trouble, right? I'm a kind of blend both of them together. So when people are using nobody knows the trouble I've seen, nobody knows but Jesus, what they're telling you is that something has to get them through. Uh, Spirituality is about your relationship with God. And I was just thinking about when we were talking earlier, how the Bible says, study to show thyself approved. And um, the spirituality of it is letting you know that you have something better than what is being given to you, right? And when we think about, I mean, people think about African life and they start with the enslavement period, as opposed to starting with the fact that colonizers didn't take slaves, enslaved Africans. What they took was they took poets and engineers and architects and maritime sailors and farmers, the greatest in the world. And you have to understand what it's like for us. I mean, we know how it is now for us, but the kind of the trajectory and the continuum of what we have gone through, you know, we're the only people that's been dislocated, relocated, isolated, stripped bare boned, both mentally, physically, and psychologically, right? So when we're thinking about spirituality, it has to be something that empowers us, something that makes us stronger, something that helps us get through every day. I mean, we're talking about every day. We ain't talking about just when trouble happens. We're talking about what makes you carry on in the face of trouble. You know what I mean? What makes you want to keep going when everything tells you to give up, when everything breaks you down? There has to be something greater. And African spirituality has always been about connecting to the higher being, right? And by understanding yourself, studying to show thyself approved, understanding yourself, you get closer to God to help yourself be better, right?
I know there are a lot of people who never thought about studying to show thyself approved from that standpoint, right? Like studying to show
Yeah.
thyself approved will make you better. So let me ask this question. So looking at today's music, listening to today's music, um,
Mm-hmm.
what what gives you hope today? What worries you? So in today's music.
Yeah. So what's interesting was I just left Puerto Rico and I was helping a sister. She has a book out called "Make Rappers Rap Again" about mumble rap. And so in it, what I was talking about was that when we think about mumble rap, people become scared, right? And I guess we all did at some point. Dr. Heidi Lewis, she was writing this book, and because she gave me the honor of actually because scholars are about letting other scholars critique their work to help them be better and to see if it's it got chops. But we were talking about, and I was talking about the connection and the spirituality of the mumble rap, right? The first thing I said was that mumble rap was like scatting. And everybody's like, what? So I had a sister scholar, Dr. Ashley Daniels, who said it all the time, like mumble rap is scatting. But then I started thinking about Jay-Z's documentary, Fade to Black. So when Jay-Z was always creating songs, he would sit there and mumble, right? And the mumble was his first take, and it was the most purest form of communication and expression. And what he said was, you put the right artist with the right track, leave the door crack, and let God walk in. So the mumble is the moan. They in church they say when you moan because the devil don't know what you talk about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
There's a conversation to be had about mumble rap and the issue of educational policy and mental illness and everything else with Gucci Man and everything else that we've been talking about recently. There's a place and conversation for that, but also there has to be space to talk about mumble rap in the form of a expression of African and Black spirituality, and that it is the earliest form. I don't even want to say primitive. I was like the most earliest form of expression. So it is a moan, right? They are telling us about No Child Left Behind. They are telling us about the troubles of contemporary world. And if Chuck D was right, which he always is, that rap is the CNN of the hood, then that means that they are telling us new stories. We don't want to hear it, right? We don't want to believe it. We don't want to believe that we didn't accomplish everything that we thought we did in 64 and 65 with the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act. We don't want to believe that, right? But these kids are holding us to the fire and holding us accountable. So that's what spirituality is really about, understanding ourselves better.
That's good. That's good. Man, as soon as you started talking about the mumble rap and the groan, man, I immediately thought about scripture, the passage of scripture that talks about, sometimes we can't articulate, but the groan is there. Doc, that's good stuff. So
the words are not even enough. So but even think about Miles Davis, right? When Miles first started playing, Miles is playing directly to the audience. He has on suits. He's real pristine, right? After he gets attacked in the police brutality act, he does not face the crowd anymore. He walks and paces throughout the crowd. Why? Because he no longer cares about validation from the audience. He cares about the connection to the music, right? It's like Nipsey Hussle says, like it's an experience where something comes down and inundates onto you. And when it falls on you, when it falls like rain on you, it inspires you. It lifts you up, and you don't have to make it audible. The idea of using, the perfect word or the semantics of it all is something more modern, right? The moan and the mumble and the improv and the scatting and all of this is back to our roots. That's the African spirituality of it, because we understand what it means, right? It's like when they talk about blues, when the person who wrote Smokestack Lightning, Howlin' Wolf would say, when you ain't got no money, that's the blues, right?
Yeah.
Why is he howling? Like he's howling at the moon. Because you're trying to get it out of you. And sometimes getting it out of you does not mean articulating the perfect sentence. It means saying what has to be said. It means if you stutter, if you stumble, if you moan, if you groan, because that means something more, because you are talking to a deeper part of yourself and expressing a deeper part of yourself.
Doc, work you're doing is so important. It's so important. So I think it'd be accurate to say that the church was responsible for shaping your moral compass. Um, in your book, let's get ready to talk about the book. So I
Okay.
think we can say that music has played a part in shaping not only a historical and historically grounded uh, perspective, right? But I think music perhaps also has shaped some political perspective. So here's the
Yeah.
argument you made. So you argue that Black music is teaching a whole generation how to see the world politically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the title of your book coming out in February 2026 is In the Spirit, in the Dark. So talk
Right.
about how Black music is teaching this next generation how to see the world politically.
Well, we have always smuggled our identity in culture, right? When you think about, I say this all the time whenever I teach my classes, culture is where politics plays out the most. And for Black Americans and for African Americans and for Africans that are children in exile, um, we didn't really get, how do we express our politics before 1965? Right? How do we express our politics even now during this period that some consider to be an upheaval or another post Reconstruction era? Right? How do we do it in a way where we can express it without being punished, without being prodded, without being lambasted or outcast or whatever? Right? It's our music. It's the political expression. And then it's carrying memory. Every song we sing carries a memory. The artist has injected an identity, an ideology, and a thought inside the music. The music, the beat alone is what brings the people together. The beat alone. The beat alone. That's what jazz is. But then when you put beat or rhythm with poetry, when you are understanding that the thoughts that people have and the experiences of it, the lived experience is within the music, right? So my master's thesis at Jackson State looked at how rap music influenced identity. Psychologically speaking, there's something called primus. You can listen to a song and a song can inundate you with values you don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm,
You could
mm-hmm.
you can listen to Fight the Power and you hit a hook, fight the power, fight the power, fight the power, fight the power. You don't even know that it's inundating you with a certain ideology. And that was my master thesis. What I'm arguing inside of this book is that I can look at your choices and tell what you have stored up over the years as your armor, because music functions like an armor. I mean, there was a trend on TikTok that I talk about in my book, how people would play trap music before they go to work, right? Or they'll play, gangster music to get hype, but to get ready, you gotta get ready. You know what I mean?
Hey, yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. And it was interesting
Yes,
because
sir.
I was at Howard a few years ago, and George Clinton was there. He was doing the other version of the Atomic Dog, Root to the Q's, and and uh, my dog Chuck was there from Alpha Chapter, and so so uh, George started singing a song, and Chuck say, "That's the song we use for the march down." He said, "What?" And so to see this moment, I don't even talk about this in my book. I'm talking this because you the book. To see this moment, right? This moment where George Clinton had no idea the influence he had on Alpha Chapter history, and caught that every line does the song, and have no idea it's George Clinton's song. and that it was smuggling in. He said, "Yeah, I wrote that song about empowerment, and it's empowering you through your probate right there, that long walk right there." You had no idea. You know what I'm saying? Imagine that. Imagine what it means. And you were talking about spirituals earlier. Like, I start with Fanlo Hamer and This Little Light of Mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
The light is about us, that we are the light. The music helps bring out and amplify it if you have the light in you. But we are also illuminating in darkness, right? Democracy dies inside the darkness. And the darkness can consume you, and it can consume your light. It's easy to get mad about things and think the worst about things and be mad at everybody every chance you get. But it's another thing to let love come in. You know, that love and light. And music is meant to amplify that light that we have in us.
So I wrote a couple of things down.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in reference to where you started. You said, how did we talk about politics before 1965? Right?
How?
So if you have any historical background, if you understand Alan Locke and the New Negro, I think you're going back towards the Harlem Renaissance. Here's my question, and it's kind of vague, it's kind of broad, but in taking that into consideration, have we lost the recognition of what music really means in the Black community?
I don't think we could ever lose it. I think that parts of it can become more co-opted, right? And I think Black music doesn't exist within a vacuum. So if it's lost, it's because the Black community itself is lost. That's a conversation we probably need to have, right? The conversation that we need to have is, what have we lost as a Black community because of what we gave up? What did it mean when King said, "I fear as though I led my people into a burning house with integration," right? And the fires in the wall, they can't see or smell it. And if that holds true, then what we lost is what we capitulated on, the negative piece that we accepted, as King said. The things that, the wanting to improve ourselves individualistically and not caring about the community and not understanding that we are there to help each other. How much have we given up? And if that's the case, then what you see in the music is just an honest depiction and mirror of who we are. It's there. Like Kendrick Lamar is both conscious and commercial. Like, you can have that. You can have both of those things at the same time. You can have Rapper's Delight and any other conscious song, Don't Push Me Because I'm Close to the Edge. You can have both. You always had both of those things. I think it's easier to say y'all ain't doing what we did, like we did it, as opposed to saying y'all are doing it like we did it, but in your own way. That's how y'all are doing it, right? That's because it's important for each generation. Frantz Fanon said each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. So the music in this area is doing what it's supposed to do, and that's make us say, where are we? How do we get here? Where do we go from here?
That's good.
What have we gained? What have we lost? You can critique Sexy Red's music, but are you critiquing her politics too? You know what I mean? Are you understanding where she come from and how she kind of goes from being abjectly poor to being a millionaire overnight, and then trying to navigate what that means to stay around? You understand how Kai Cenat can be a streamer and be totally detached because we don't have the protests like we used to do. We're not engaging in youth like we used to do. The Crips and the Bloods were youth of Black political movements, right? Crips have like community, party or something like that. You can't critique the music without critiquing the people. And then also, it's not just us, right? It's because policy. I had this in my book, but Policy creates environments, and environments create experiences. King said poverty is man-made and policy-driven. So that means that when the music is being impacted by the environments that it's in, you're going to get the music that you're getting. Right? When you have no child left behind, it's leaving every child behind. When you have, zero tolerance policing, or when you have police brutality going on and it's at a high, you're going to hear more about it because people just want to talk about their lived experience. They're going to talk about what they know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's that? Jason said, critics say I'm money, cash, hoes. I'm from the hood, stupid. What types of facts are those? If you were having holes in your Zapato, you were celebrating the first minute you were having dough. Of course. But at the same time, you can't say the music is bad, but there's no community that it has to connect it to. Yes, there's an obligation of the artist. Yes, there's an obligation of him to give back and understand the community better. But there was also our obligation as a community to be able to inundate them. Everybody ain't supposed to be Tupac. Tupac was a anomaly. He was a poet laureate. He was his. We don't talk about it enough, but his mama was Afeni Shakur. His stepfather was Matulu Shakur, who helped him create Thug Life. His godfather was Geronimo Pratt. His godmother Asada Shakur. Come on, man. He read Machiavelli at 12. All right.
Policy creates environments. So there's no way. This is what's happening. I can only speak for myself, but I'm sure there's some other people in here as well. So my playlist is 30 years old. I listen to those things. But when I listen to a lot of music today, I'm not really listening to it. When I critique it, I'm not listening to the entire experience of the music. Right. And that is where I'm at fault right there, because hearing you say policy creates environments, and I'm listening to you, I'm like, man, music is an experience. And that's why I love the music I grew up on, because I understood a lot of the experiences. And then I critique what today's kids listen to, because I'm not taking into account the experience. I done turned into one of them adults. Let me ask you this question, Doc. About how many young people were surveyed for this book?
Well, I surveyed probably a total of probably 400 or 500.
Okay.
I did it in the middle of protesting at Howard. So the chapter was a Howard chapter, and I was a grad student. Didn't have many resources. I did a convenient sampling, and I got IRB approval to survey Howard students at Howard. But at the time, Howard A building was being shut down by the students.
Yeah.
Because, we can't talk about standing up against oppression and only just talk about this white man and not worry about the things that is being reproduced in our own neighborhoods. Yes, there's an onus of the individual to help themselves, but you can't stay with a bootstrap philosophy. Even King said it's a cruel jest to tell a bootless man to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. You can't just say, "Oh, you got to start with us first." No, what are you talking about? There's a correlation between crime and poverty. The more poverty you have, the more crime you got, and poverty is man-made, policy crazy. The lack of jobs, the poor education, the crib to prison pipeline. And yes, you can also say, "Hey, brother, we got to do better too." But you can't say just do better and then walk away. You don't make sure he got a job. See, that was the problem with the Civil Rights Act. And my grandfather used to say, the Civil Rights Act, and he was a World War II quarterman. He died at the age of 97. He used to say, all the Civil Rights Act said was, I could eat in a 5-star restaurant, but it didn't ensure I had 5-star money.
Yeah.
It's the accountability of it all. It's about understanding that politics is defined as an authoritative allocation of values and resources. The motto of it is who gets what, when, and how. And in Black politics, we say who don't get what, when, and how. When you don't get what, that is echoing King when he says, we have come to America to fulfill its promise with the Constitution and this blank check, and every time we go to cash the check, it comes back insufficient funds. Because the Constitution within itself was written in a way in which we were never included in the original Constitution. That's what originalists or conservatives are always never read past the 10th Amendment. That's something to put inside your back pocket. That's how they're able to make the claim of who Americans are, who the people are. They're making this based off of Dred Scott case. They're making this off of Taney's decision. All my folks out there that one of my close friends, Justin Hampton, who's a lawyer, he always, we used to talk about law a lot. I call him Junior. But that decision from Taney told you, King, he had to wrestle with that. That's why he was when everybody like to use King, but like Bernice King says, we don't want to really use and really see his struggle, even inside his book, right? And what does it mean when it says that it doesn't matter even if Black people do get freedom and are emancipated? They were never part of the people. They were never part of the original contract. That means we have a subcontract. We got a subcontract, like one of my articles talk about. The subcontract can be revoked. I have a piece I call "As Is America: Subcontracting Freedom." I wrote that. I was just a grassroots, just with trying to indict everything. But yeah.
So this is not one of my questions that I sent you earlier. Just as I'm digesting all of this, right? Yeah. I'm digesting all of this, man. Yeah. The importance of music. Oh yeah. The importance of standing history as it relates to our music, but also history as it relates to our politics. Yeah. It's almost like the same pieces are being written over and over and over and over, right? Yeah. Because we can go every generation, right? And we're talking about the same issues when it comes to our community. We're talking about that blank check that comes back NSF. So where does the music go? Yeah. Where does the music go?
The music is what grounds us. The music is what shows us the continuum. Like Du Bois said, don't you know the past is the present, and without it, we are nothing? I should read that every day in my history class at North Carolina Central in Burr Harper's class. He wrote that book with Brother Hobson, With Faith in God and Heart and Mind. And that quote used to haunt me. Don't you know the past is the present, and without it, we are nothing? Then how do we bring the past into the present? And how we take the present into the future? It's the music. The music grounds us. The music, like you were just saying earlier, listen to the young people music. It basically wakes you up. It's an alarm. And nobody likes an alarm. I wrote a piece called "And When They Wake Up," it was like one of my first pieces that I wrote. And what I basically was saying was like, the music functions like an alarm clock. And who likes being awoken by an alarm clock? It's noisy, it's loud, and it disrupts the peace, the negative peace in this regard. So the music acts as a grounder for it. It keeps us calm. It keeps us from going off the hand. It keeps us from blah, blah, blah. But it also acts in a multifaceted way where it ignites us and it unites us and it brings us together. And when I talk about the Black Lives Matter movement and how artists like, would come out and support them and create these songs as a function of the movement that was going on, it also mobilizes. It also causes what I call political contagion. You can use music to inspire other people to want to change things. But you talked about how history has this terrible stutter. It has a terrible stutter because it doesn't want to, we don't want to really struggle with what we have to deal with today. We're still trying to fight using the same tools and strategies that we were using 30, 40, 60, 70 years ago. And as the master teacher, Dr. John Henry Clark says, a strategy is like a piece of fruit. When you get done with that peeling, what you supposed to do with that banana peeling? You throw it away. We can't keep thinking that incrementalism was going to solve it. Incrementalism is slow death because it gives the person that you're trying to appeal to, the moral dilemma you're trying to appeal to, an opportunity to be able to fortify the system so that way, whatever you're asking for, you can't get it again. And that's why even now we have the same level of voting rights that my grandfather had in 1940, but you don't want to really admit that. We have the same and if not worse issues going on right now. But the question is, it's not a question of what needs to be done, it's a question of will. What will you do? Are you really willing to do it, or are you just gonna be social media warriors, right? And just tweet about it and text about it and hashtag about it and never figure out another way. I mean, it has to be something else done. All systems seek predictable growth, and systems adapt, right? It's going to adapt. So then you can't march like you used to because they just open up the front door and let you out the back door. You got to figure out something more. Something more has to be there to inspire you, to push you. You have to make and go beyond what the system is expecting you to do, because it will adapt to your resistance. It will adapt to your strategies. It will adapt. It will expand long enough, and then it will contract. And once it contracts, it's gonna squeeze you.
I got a couple of comments over here on Instagram. Okay. Nina Simone, this is from Happy Black Girl who joined us. She said, Nina Simone said it is the artist to reflect the times. But what I hear you saying is the artist has a duty, but the general population also has a duty to act.
Yes.
Get beyond the music that's in your ears, get out of the playlist, and actually do some things. Because, man,
I mean, use the playlist while you're doing things. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
use the playlist while you're doing things. It's gonna. You don't get a Ty Dolla $ign working with Black Lives Matter or Jay-Z and Beyonce, or Beyonce doing that concert. Yeah, they're gonna reflect the times. Absolutely, they're gonna reflect the times. But that also means that when Nina Simone writes about Mississippi, she's in the moment.
God damn.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody knows about Mississippi. You know what I mean? Yeah. To be young, gifted, and Black. Yes. But everybody has their place with the music, but outside the music, beside the contribution of the music itself, there's other things that you can say. You can use your space to speak out. You can stand up where you are. You can ask for a better wage and better environments. You can hold people accountable. But the thing is, we're afraid because we have been conditioned and socialized. Like, socialization is how we get our values. We've been socialized to a point that we are afraid of what we're going to lose as opposed to what we really could gain. We rather hold on to this, right? Hold on to what we were. Hold on to the way we were raised. Hold on to what we have been taught before versus saying, I'm willing to shed, right? That's what Pimp a Butterfly is about. He's shedding the cocoon. It's struggle to break through it. You don't want to give up who you've been. You don't want to. It's convenient to continue to think that everybody and everyone is against you. That's convenient. That's the negative piece, and that basically rots you from the inside out. But if the artist reflects the times, yes, that's one part of it. But then the artist themselves has an obligation, and then the community has an obligation to help bring the artist into it. You can't just say, well, the artist supposed to do all this. Then what we doing?
Yeah. So you went, and that's where I was gonna go into next. I was gonna ask that question next. We got another comment, and then I'm gonna kind of jump into this mid roll. So Naja, this is from Floyd W. Hayes. It says, Naja, your insight and brilliance shine so brightly. I can't wait to read your forthcoming book. Keep on keeping on, my brother. Listen, man, this is powerful work, and I want to dig even deeper.
Let me start first. When I gave flowers earlier, I was talking about Floyd W. Hayes III.
Yeah,
he wrote the book Turbulent Voyage with Malana Karenga, who invented Kwanzaa. He's the man that introduced me to understanding myself. The first book that Dr. Hayes put in my hand was Racist America by Joe Fagan, written by a white sociologist. We don't exist. I am because of Floyd W. Hayes III. He should come into class, right? And he used to look at us and say, you must think audaciously and critically at all times. I mean, he was a newt, but he used to always say, what the difference between newts and Qs? We all was about service. And Dr. Floyd W. Hayes, I love you, brother. He's 80, 90 years old. A couple of years ago, he won the Senior Olympics, weightlifting, powerlifting. But he was the one teaching me about understanding and even though I was protesting as a student, he still held me accountable to my scholarship. That's what I mean. We can't just be one level. We can't just, it's nuance. It's complex. All right, Doc.
My advisor at Southern in undergraduate, I actually gave him flowers a couple episodes back, Dr. Reginald Rackley. He got his PhD in psychology from Howard University. And one of the things he talked was how Dick Gregory would just be hanging out on campus to break bread and share knowledge with the younger students. Yeah. So that right there, man, salute Dr. Hayes. That is important. We
Dr.
have
Floyd
to
W. Hayes the third. You gotta say the third.
Third. Dr. Floyd W. Hayes the third. Salute.
The third. Listen, he didn't play about this.
Yeah. This is good stuff.
It's so interesting you said Southern because the first Black woman political scientist, Dr. Jewel Prestidge, all of her students now, they call them Jules Jewel, right? Elsie Scott, Dr. Elsie Scott, I mean, who used to be over the CBC. She has numerous students around the country that have played a prolific role, right? But you made a point that I think we need to go back to, and that is sitting at the feet of the elders.
Yes.
And the elders being available for us to sit at their feet. You see how this relationship works? We have to do this together. There's an obligation that I have to the younger generation to say, come on, brother, let me talk to you. It was Dr. Hayes who saw my transcript and said, you so much better than this right here. What's your GPA? You so much better than that. You got to figure out what you want to do. Because you got to take this serious, right? I mean, if somebody has to help us understand, if we have to understand that, we need the elders in order to understand where we're trying to go. The Bible said they call the young because they're strong and they're able. They call the old because they're wise and they know the way.
Wise.
And they know
victory.
The way. And
there's victory in a multitude of counselors.
Hey, you already know the chasm that was not to me. The chasm that was not to me, to a fairhead youth may a pitfall be.
Pitfall be. That's it.
He too much crossing the twilight then. You so busy trying to get accolades and recognition. You know what I mean? And Aubrey told y'all they ain't got no awards for that, trophies. We ain't doing it for the trophies.
They ain't got no awards for that. Listen,
they got no awards for that. Dr. Lorenzo Moore, Dr. Floyd Hayes, they didn't do this stuff to get recognition. Dr. Morris doing my graduation because it was COVID. He was upset because he couldn't hood me. And I'm texting him saying, well, Doc, I'm going to get you something to thank you. He said, man, my greatest thank you can give me is to go on and to liberate and answer the question, what does any other work we do mean for the liberation of yourself and Black people? What does it mean? How are you using what you have to make the world and yourself better? And it starts with you, yes, but it also starts with you pushing higher. What's that?
Perfect segue. Let me jump in here, Doc. Let me jump in here real quick. Powerful work. We're going to dig deeper, but first let's take a quick moment to support the network and this community that we are building together. If you are watching on YouTube, here's what I need you to do. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so that you never miss an episode. If you're listening to this podcast, head over to Apple Podcasts, drop a 5-star rating. It helps us reach more people who need these conversations. Make sure that you follow us on IG. That's podcast_with_Prejean, where we continue these conversations, where we build community and we share these resources that strengthen us all. And please tell a friend to tell a friend. That's how we strengthen the network together, because in the freedom of ourselves and our community. All right, Doc, this is what I want to do. I want to touch on the physical side of this work. And our Funky Four, I like to call this the physical corner. You said something that's profound. You said health is priceless. Be proactive, reactive. Break that down for us. What does proactive health look like for Black folks doing heavy lifting, whether it's physically, emotionally, or maybe even politically?
Oh man,
what does that look like?
Almost everything is political. The reason that our health is impacted is the number one killer of Black people is hypertension, right? And most of that comes from our jobs and environments that we're in. Black maternal health, Black women dying more than any other group. We are the most disproportionately affected groups in America, health-wise. You can't separate politics and health. Again, policy, healthcare policy. Somebody creates the policy, right? The environments that we in has an impact on us. The cortisone levels that we encounter, the sleep apnea that we develop, the diabetes that we develop because of the availability of the foods, the health issue, the health crisis that we have. And most of that stems from the mental, because we are constantly under stress. Fanon once asked, what is the result of oppression on the mind? And the result is a failing health. That's how to slowly kill us, as Kesey Lehman's book said, How to Slowly Kill Somebody in America. You kill them slowly by having them accept the position that they're in, by them not fighting back, by them mincing words, by them not wanting to say anything and go along and get along. And it does something to you. You know, that stress does something to your gut. You know, your ulcers develop that way. You know, all that stuff. But the health, the wealth is being proactive, meaning how do we go ahead and counter this? And one of the main ways that we don't talk about it is Black rest. We have sold into the idea that we got to work ourselves to death. We got to be twice as good as everybody else, and we're killing ourselves. Resting matters, and resting is not. And I had a colleague call me out on this one time. I never forgot, and I appreciate her saying it, because I would say I'm resting, and she said, "What you doing?" I'm returning emails. She said, "That's not resting." But I'm in bed. But it's not resting, right? You're not resting. You're not resting if you're still trying to do work or jumping on replying to email. Resting is unplugging from social media, from everything that we're doing. Resting is finding people and places that help you understand that you need to be better and how to do that, right? That tells you, hey, your slip is showing. Hey, take a breather, take 5, come back to it later. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's what, and that's how you be proactive to notice and to go to the doctor when things are wrong. The Black folks used to wait not because they didn't want to go, but because they didn't have the money, because the bills. See, that's a function of the economics of it all, the political economy of it all, because you don't have the economy. Anthony Downs doesn't write his book without politics, the political economy. It's political economy.
Yeah. So healthy political engagement.
Yeah.
Right? It's all, you just said it's all political. It's all political. So, but what does healthy political engagement look like for us, where we're informed and active, but not spiritually or mentally crushed?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
I think,
and then on the backside, what's the soundtrack for that?
Oh man. I think you
disappeared into the background.
How do we do that without being crushed? Right?
Yeah.
I think Audre Lorde said, if you don't define yourself for yourself, you get crushed into someone's existence and eaten alive. I say this all the time. I wish that when we talked about when they brought on commentators onto the news about Black people, so that they actually brought on Black political scientists, people that actually were experts in their field. If you're good at fixing a car, and I know how to change my oil, which is cool. I can change my oil, but that doesn't mean that I'm a trained mechanic. You know, you can research something on Google, and you can hear somebody, a talking head, or somebody say something on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. But it also means engaging with the scholars, the black scholars that's actually doing the work. Read their actual work. Go. It's not like you got to go to the library. Go to Google Scholar. Look up the topic that you care about. Find the black scholar that's been working on that and cite them and talk about that, and then reach out to them. There's a conference called the National Conference of Black Political Scientists that we have every year. It's coming up in Maryland. We are open to the public. Come to the conference. Listen to these things, right? And it keeps you, the way you keep from being crushed is by seeking, like you saying, spaces like this community space that allows for you to say somebody else is going through the same thing that I'm going through. And just remember, you're facing this what other men have met, right? You and other women have met, and other people have met, because when you have space where you're able to say, hey, I don't have to compete against you. Tell me how you got there. Tell me what your passion is. And I was just telling my niece and nephew before I got on here, Yana and Donovan, I was telling them that you got to find your passion. You got to find what works for you. You know, if not, then it's going to crush you. But that's the crushing of it all, the estrangement of your labor, right? When someone else exploits and controls your labor, when you work for somebody else and you don't get the freedom of figuring out how do you create, what is your passion, what speaks to you even when you're sleeping, and you got to wake up and write down ideas. It's crushing to be under the weight of someone who is in a system that doesn't care whether you live or die. You know what I mean? And you got, that means you have to find life. That means you have to be in a space that holds you accountable, that tells you when you're wrong, and being admit when you're wrong, and being able to understand, hey, this is a process. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, and you gotta, slow down, speed up, go. You know, it's a long journey, and you do everything you can do. And then when your time is up, when your mission is up, you pass the baton to the next group of people. They're gonna be doing greater things they're supposed to do. That's what I was saying earlier about Jay-Z said, "A young Carter, go further, go farther. Is that not why we came? If not, then why bother?"
Then why bother? Yeah, yeah. So, man, it's so much to chew on here. So I wanna put a pin in something for everybody who's watching now. For those of you who are going to tune in and catch this later on YouTube or listen to the podcast later, it's all political.
It's all almost everything.
It's all political.
All of it. All of it. Politics controls the road you drive on, the water you drink, the food you eat, the schools you go to. All of it is political. All of it. It's all politics. You can't say I don't care. And the problem is we wait every 4 years, and I say this all the time, that we suffer from political atrophy, which means that we let the muscle weaken. And then every 4 years we trying to run a marathon, triathlon. We ain't even ran no sprints. You know what I'm saying? You know?
Yeah. So why is it that there's two things that I love to talk about that people are always like, man, don't talk about politics or religion. But those are the two things, in my personal opinion, in my humble opinion, that we need to talk about more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where did that myth come from? Why do we still adhere to that myth?
Because they think that if you don't explicitly talk about politics, or you don't explicitly talk about religion, that no one can really tell who. It's a way to hide yourself. Like Paula Dunbar said, we wear the mask that shades and hides. It's hiding yourself. That's the crushing of yourself, because you don't want to show who you really are. You want your representative to show up so you can just be cool with people you work with, make your money, and go home while the world around you is burning down, not knowing the fire is coming to your door. Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about in this book. You don't have to I can't look at you and tell whether you a Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal. I can't look at you and tell that. You know, I can tell without you even trying. Your choices tell on you, right? You think you're hiding who you are politically, because you don't say anything about a policy like about abortion or Palestine or whatever. But your choices. Not choosing is a choice.
Not choosing is a choice.
Inaction is an action.
That's it. And we can't afford. I love the imagery that you use. That muscular, that political atrophy.
Yeah.
We don't use that muscle, but once every 4 years. That's a trademark. And then we try to hide.
Yeah.
Listen, we can't afford. I was actually going to ask you as a, but I know the answer to it. We can't afford to hide. We can't afford to put that mask on because, like you said, the fire is coming.
It's already
whether you want to admit it or not, it's here. All right, let's talk about money just a little bit. So we've talked about the mind, we've talked about the body, the spirit. It's all political. The last corner that either holds our people back or it can move us forward. That's our relationship with money. So let's go there. You said a penny saved is a penny earned. What is one policy area you wish every Black household would track the way we track other things like culture and sports and stuff like that, but it directly impacts our wallets? What's one policy area Black folks need to track?
It's a couple of them. I mean, I would probably start with credit, right?
Okay.
Or the student loan crisis. I think that's something that bubble. I would also, more than likely, more than anything else, start with wages. I think the living wage is something that we have detached ourselves from so much, and just like, well, I'm just going to get my money other ways, and we think it's normal working 3 or 4 or 5 different jobs, killing ourselves, working 40 hours a day is the way to do it. You know, I think if we care about our kids and our future, we will focus on, education and retooling ourselves in order to be able to have the things that we need. Money is simply an insulator, but Black capitalism will never save us, right? It's simply an insulator. It's going to insulate us in the way in which we need to give us time enough to be able to organize and do the things to do. The love of money is the root of all evil, but money, the Bible said, money answers all things. It has a purpose, but it can't be the complete reason. But you still need to be able to have a home and food and we have to, in order to save money, if you don't spend it, you got it, right? Living below our means, not trying to keep up with the Joneses, not trying to, knowing, a lot of people talk about now about, I saw Waka Flocka talk about trust, like having a living trust and all this other, understanding how the system works in order to put more money in our pockets, but understanding that, when the rubber meets the road, politics don't care about money. They'll lose billions of dollars by shutting the government down years ago. I ain't talking about the recent government shut. I'm talking about the ones from I'm talking about Barack Obama government shutdown. I'm talking about the shutdowns that has been happening, because this ain't the first time they've done it for 30 days. They'll lose billions and billions of dollars just to make a point. And at some point, the money can't keep us warm, the degrees can't keep us warm. You know what I mean? We would have been focused on it so much, we wouldn't, but there are many policies we can think about. Minimum wage or housing, the housing crisis, or the loan lending. I mean, who knows what's about to happen next with this new Department of Education? How much we spend on war versus how much we spend on education. There's a study out called $1 Million Blocks that showed like 14 or 15 blocks in Chicago where they increased the spending in the prison industrial system, and they decreased the spending in the education. And by doing so, it increased the crime and the poverty. And therefore, people weren't even able to have jobs. I mean, watching the market change, watching spaces like TikTok be taken over or Twitch, how we always
Mhm.
jump into things first and make it genuine, authentic, and then somebody takes over. We don't make sure we're getting our worth. We're gonna get paid what we worth.
So you made me think about this private prison company that was suing the state
Oh yeah, for not
but for
getting
not
them.
having for not having enough inmates. So you said this, and somebody may be wondering the answer. You said black capitalism will not save us.
Oh,
So before we jump into the next thing, so if it's not black capitalism, what is?
community. That's what saves us. Uh, what saves us is understanding the dimensions of. If you ain't never read Adam Smith's Wealth of Nation and understand how he wrote capitalism versus how capitalism actually
Mm-hmm,
functions, if you don't
mm-hmm,
understand that it's nothing wrong with making money, the problem is making money at the expense of others. That's the conversation that we
right,
don't want to have.
right,
I
right,
want to be able to buy food and have room. Yeah, of course. But it doesn't mean I have to forfeit my identity and forfeit the issues. We don't all have the same issues. So we don't need all have the same solutions. And black capitalism just says all we gotta do is wait for the rising tide to lift all boats. But that assumes everybody's on a boat. Some people on a P road, some people ain't got a boat. Some
right.
boats capsize. We we just can't wait for it. Just expect that we hit their pocket. Jamal Bryant, the black buyout. That's going to work temporarily till they figure out something else, a way to stop it. Right? That may stop Target, but it's not stopping Washington.
Okay, so let's just kind of stay here just for a second. So I'm gonna put some puzzle pieces together. We're afraid,
Oh yeah.
right? That's one of the things we hit earlier. So do you believe that there is a portion of the black community believe that there are people in African America that are afraid of community?
I don't think it's about them being afraid of community. I just think they have been socialized to think that they don't need community. Right? Um.
Do you think that, and just like sticking with this fear thing, because here's my thought.
Uh huh.
um Man, in order to build, rebuild, invest, reinvest in community, I'm gonna have to give up some of these individual freedoms that I
Right.
enjoy. Are we afraid there?
Well, Thomas Jefferson said liberty is not licensed simply because you can't do something doesn't mean you should, right? But we've had
Mm-hmm.
black enclaves. You don't have to. Everybody talks about Black Wall Street. That's the easiest ones, the ones in Durham and the one in Tulsa. But what about
Mm-hmm.
Move in 1985? What about the
In
cooperative?
Philadelphia, yeah,
Yeah, Philadelphia. We created enclaves. We created
yeah,
enclaves, and they bomb them, right? Right. I think it's the trauma of what it means to build community. And every time we've built community, we've really been intellectually honest about it. When we
yeah,
built
yeah,
community, when people have allowed themselves to be vulnerable, when people have allowed themselves to understand things beyond themselves and admitted to issues, the problems in society, they were attacked. My mama, when I was in college, she said, "I don't want you to get killed like they did King," because who wants to sacrifice themselves for other people? That's what you condition under capitalism to only care about yourself, because Adam Smith, when he wrote it, talks about maximizing self-interest. You only care about yourself. That's it. There is
yeah.
no community. America is not about it's about being American, being an individual, maximizing self-interest, working hard, and making money. And there's nothing wrong with it, but the problem is at the end of the day got to end, and the money is not going to say it's not going to stop. I
Yeah.
remember, I remember Louis Farrakhan talking about how he was talking to Muhammad Ali one time as he was older, and he was talking about Ali. Look at all we got: these houses, these cars. He said Ali just leaned over to him and said, "Still a nigga, brother. Still a nigga." Right? Because it doesn't matter. What's that? The old Kanye said, even if I'm in the Benz, I'm just a nigga in the coupe.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna get pulled over. Henry Louis Gates at Harvard, who was a Stellar Award winning scholar, right?
Ran up on him at his house.
At his house. Right?
Yep.
It's not just the capital, it's the anti-intellectualism of it all. We don't want to really study and struggle like Dr. Hayes is always. You gotta study and struggle. We don't want to struggle. If we say, struggle, there's no struggle, there's no progress. But the second part of that quote is power concedes nothing without demand. It never has.
Without
never
demand.
will. The fundamental element within any political system is demand. The input is called demands, right? Input, throughput, output, feedback, and the holding of things accountable. I think if we are to ever go further, go towards a more perfect union, that's bad English, bad grammar, a more perfect union, it's going to require us to make hard choices and be uncomfortable and push ourselves further than we have been doing. I think it's going to take us making sacrifice. That means we got to make it all the time in the same way, but it also means something more has to be done. There are micro and macro things that need to be done, long term and short term. We need to, but it has to start somewhere.
Yeah, man. I can't, number one, I can't wait for the book to come out. I'm definitely excited about reading the book. I read some of your stuff online today, getting ready. And I'm just like, man, I sent you the scripted questions, but man, I had like 20 more. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, man, because there's so many things that we can talk about. But all this means, Doc, is that, man, we got to bring you back when the book drops.
Got you.
All right. So listen, man, Doc, you've been dropping gems. Let's loosen up. Let's have a little bit of fun. Play a game with me. Ready?
Right. Yeah.
All right. So this is rapid fire. I'm gonna just throw some stuff at you, man. Soon as it hits the dome, just give me what you got. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Choir rehearsal or protest march?
Choir rehearsal.
Okay. All right. So now, protest anthem. You going with Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday or K Dot's We Gonna Be All Right?
Well, we gonna be all right.
Okay. HBCU homecoming or Sunday service at your home church?
What's the difference?
I love it.
No, Sunday service. No, because it's not the same, but it's kind of. But Kanye said there's no church in the wild. You know what I mean? HBCU homecoming ain't nothing like a Howard homecoming. All homecomings ain't created equal. My brother gonna be mad at me because he said, the greatest homecoming on earth is at A&T, at Greensboro College. But Howard homecoming it's experience. But Sunday morning, you know what I mean? Sunday morning is the rejuvenating hour or 2 hours, whatever it is for you, because it's different for everybody else. But that Sunday morning, as Derek Kohler used to sing, when Sunday comes, all of my trouble, everything, even the trouble I had at home, as soon as it gets here, I'll have a new song. If you don't have Sunday morning, you don't get through Monday, through Friday and Saturday.
Listen, what you just said, I don't want people watching or listening to miss this. You said even the those I had at homecoming when Sunday comes. Because listen, we love homecoming.
Ain't nothing wrong with it.
We love homecoming. Right. But even the trouble that you had at homecoming don't compare to Sunday. Listen, all right, here we go. Let me keep moving.
Okay,
all right.
Okay.
Organizing a voter registration drive or a political education Bible study.
Political education Bible study. And I say that because I always tell my students voting is not enough. Activism is a must. You have to vote. We need to register to vote. I understand that. but I also understand it does no good unless we have the education to understand why even when we vote, it's not vote. Life ain't life and voting ain't voting. Why ain't it going through the way it's supposed to? You don't understand the cases that are going on. You don't understand Shelby County and all the mechanisms. You need both, right? I mean, you're going to vote, okay, yeah, but that's the lowest form of political participation is voting. That's the lowest form.
That's it. So,
important.
Man, as a high school social studies teacher, I always told my kids that my first and foremost job is that you leave my classroom and you are more informed so that you can be part of an informed electorate. Didn't matter if I was teaching African American studies, if I was teaching world geography, if I was teaching economics, if I was teaching AP human geography, I need you to be part of an informed electorate. Because like you said, man, voting is the bottom of the barrel.
Do it. Yes, vote, because even if the vote doesn't count, you can show it by voting. Yes, vote. But also that's the lowest form. There's so much more. I tell my students all the time, I don't teach you political science. I teach you citizenship. I don't teach you what to think. I teach you how to think. And in the words of the great Floyd W. Hayes III, you must think audaciously and critically at all times.
At all times.
Because it's not just about something you do in a classroom. It's not that. It's what you do with yourself. It's what you do to help yourself be better in the world around you. That's what it's about.
So if you're one of those people who chose not to vote, right? If you're one of those people, because I'm sure you know some, because I know some, if that's the lowest level of your political engagement, then ain't really nothing else you can talk about.
And then also, don't just say I voted and then that's it and go home, right? Even if you did vote, you put your sticker on, you took your obligatory Snapchat to TikTok, and then that's it. But you didn't know who you were voting for. You didn't know what they really stood for. You don't understand any of the platforms. You don't know the implications of the policies, and you don't hold them accountable after you vote. So then, why did you really? Then you say you want to say, oh, well, my ancestors voted. Yeah, but they didn't want you to just stop at voting.
Right. Every generation.
Each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it over. We are not supposed to be trying to still get the right to vote completely in 2025. It's in a first in flight trophy. We chasing first in flight trophies in 2025. First black person and blah blah blah. We got out to vote. We voted and we won some elections, but you ain't taking over the party. You ain't making sure. I mean, you ain't pushing back against some of these cases and policies that you know that are existing. You're not pushing back on the fact of the redistricting maps that have come out. You know what I mean? I was working with folks in South Carolina dealing with gerrymandered votes when the census came out. And I'm telling you for a fact that they stole those maps from them folks. That brother was upset. Yeah. We worked day in and day out for years to get those maps together.
All right. So that's heavy. That's a heavy thing. So when life gets heavy, physical rest or a therapy?
Say what? Physical rest.
When life gets heavy, physical rest or a therapy session?
A therapy session, because it's going to put you back to sleep. Hey, listen, a good therapy session is going to lay you down. You see what I'm saying? Because it's going to make you, because the mind is the strongest muscle in the body, and you working it out on a level in which you never worked before. You can have a therapist and have Jesus at the same time. You need both, right? But you also need to be honest with your therapist. That's if you ain't really, it's like if you're working with a trainer and you ain't getting the results you want to see, it's because you ain't being honest with yourself. You ain't being honest with your trainer, right? It's the same thing with your therapist. You can lie to your therapist. Your therapist is only going to work on what you tell them. But if you're completely honest, it's going to help you they're going to push you. Oh, no, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done it. But what we like to do is cherry pick and omit things so that way we can get people to validate the things that we're doing, as opposed to saying, oh, no, I should have never done X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Let me tell you the whole story. When I talk to my therapist, I'm like, look, I'm going to tell you the whole story. Now, because I want you to tell me if I'm wrong so I could be better, right? Because you're the expert here. I'm a political scientist. I do political psychology as well, and the psychology department at Arkansas always say that I'm really a secret psychologist. And yeah, I'm cool with it. I've studied it. I understand it. I work in it. I get it. But also, I have a therapist, right? And my therapist helps me through things. And it's not like, again, it's not a shrink or somebody trying to, get over my mind and brainwash me. No, no. It is
Yeah.
me talking to
Yeah.
someone to help me understand and give me tools to deal with some of the things that I'm dealing with.
And look, I'm gonna say this again. I know I keep going back here, but we're afraid.
Oh yeah.
We're afraid. Two things. Number one, we're afraid to be honest.
Yeah.
And then number two, we're afraid to go to therapy because we're afraid of being honest.
And then number three, we're afraid to forgive ourselves.
Oh, listen. I can't go there. That's a whole nother podcast.
We'll do that. Look, we got
yeah. I really wanted to go there, but that's a whole nother episode, man. We feel like we've been indicted whenever stuff like that come up. But I'm gonna just stop it there. All right, listen. what you doing with the cash? You putting the cash in the mattress or index fund?
Index fund.
All right. Music, headphones, or are you singing in corporate worship?
Wait, say that again. Music and headphones or singing in corporate worship?
Yeah.
I'm gonna sing regardless. I got a song for everything. My mom used to say I have a song for everything. So that's how I came up with this whole thing. You selecting a song based on I'm always sing because when you sing it helps you get through. The Bible says singing to yourself in hymns and songs. It helps you get through, even in the corporate world. The hymns.
That's good stuff. My screen cut off on me.
You good?
Juneteenth parade or MLK Day service? Which one? If you got to pick, Juneteenth parade, Martin Luther King Day service.
Juneteenth, and that's only because, I have a whole chapter about Stevie Wonder and the MLK holiday inside the book, and what that means, right? And I, give honor to whom honor is due, but also, I think, we haven't recognized how Bernie's King has, how they hijacked King, right? And they used the day long enough until they got to the point now where the president is now trying to eliminate the day. We get more focused on the day than we get focused on what the day is really about and how we got there, right? And the Juneteenth emancipation, and then what that whole story means, right? 2 years later, after things, what that whole story means about Juneteenth, right? And community. It's not about one person. It's not about a monolithic leader. We, Chacarera said, "I'm not a liberator. The people liberate themselves." Us. I am because we are. We are because I am.
That's it. All right, last question right here. Last question. When you celebrate your small wins, are you going to eat out or are you going to cook at home?
And when I was in grad school, I cooked at home. I had to do it. And people said, you celebrate I celebrated all of it. Steak and shrimp or a good breakfast or, because for me, it was cathartic for me. It was cathartic because most of the time I had been eating out to try to get through whatever I was dealing with. But once I've gotten to a point, why not? If I'm in a good city, I can get something good. I will, maybe some crabs or something. I'm cool with that. But, being at home too and being able to say, I made this, I did this, this is me feeding myself, nourishing myself, you know what I mean? And just having that moment of consecration.
All right. I should ask this question first. Man, if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, if I had any superpower, I think if I had any superpower, the superpower that I would want is to help others have insight and see themselves better, right? Dick Gregory talks about the glasses. I don't know if you remember that about the glasses. He says it's only two rules. One is once you put the glasses on, you see the world differently than everybody else. You can't take them off.
Yeah.
And the second one is you can't make nobody put them on. I wish my superpower was to help people put those glasses on, right?
Yeah.
And to have insight for themselves. They can see the world better.
That's good, man. That's good. That's probably the best answer that I've had, man. This is episode 72, I think. That might be the
Congratulations,
best
man.
answer,
That's
man.
big. That's longevity.
That's good
That's
stuff right there.
institution building. That's institution building. That's longevity.
Listen, man, I do this. This is the Lord's work I'm doing. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me say that. This is
Next
part
time.
of one of my kingdom assignments. I don't care if one person watch it or 1 million people watch it.
Yeah.
As long as somebody is helped. That's all that matters. All right, Doc, listen. Man, we're coming up on the end of this thing. We got 2 segments left. This first one is called Good Medicine. This is where I give you the opportunity to prescribe something to our listeners and watchers, something that was good to you that you believe will be good for our watching and listening audience. So what do you have for good medicine?
For good medicine, I would say a good scripture. That's what I'm gonna say. Because when I'm going through things, and there are some scriptures and some songs, right? That some scriptures that are songs. I'm just reminded of one that said, "For I reckon that the suffering of this present time are not worthy to be compared with all the glory that shall be revealed in us." That's a scripture and a song at the same time. That's my good medicine.
That's some good stuff right there. That's some good stuff right there. All right, this brings us to the very last thing in the episode. I like to call this You Didn't Ask. So,
Didn't ask.
man, need advice. They don't need advice. We give advice when they didn't necessarily ask for advice. Well, here's what we do here. We give advice that nobody asked for, but they really need. So, what do you have for You Didn't Ask?
My advice would be listen more to Black women scholars like Dr. Melina Abdullah as opposed to Omar Johnson. She's a real Pan-Africanist. You know what I mean? Read Black scholars and Black leadership, literature and scholarship. Buy it, give it to somebody else. Cut the TV off sometimes and the social media. The advice I'm going to tell you is that it can be addictive, right? And until you're able to understand that what we put in our bodies is what controls us, then that's going to make the difference for you.
Listen, they told us years ago. We thought it was just a saying. You are what you eat.
Yes, and social media the algorithm will give you more of what you've been doing. It's not going to give you. You got to seek out other stuff if you're going to be on social media. If not, then you're going to listen. You can stay on TikTok for 6 hours, and all you saw was commercials and live feeds and people throwing gifts and 200 subs, and and that has its place. But also, the world is so much bigger. There's so much more going on, and you have to understand yourself better.
Man, Doc, listen, everybody, we getting ready to get out of here. But here's what I need y'all to do. I need y'all to connect. If you are not already connected with Dr. Baptist, this is where you can find him on Facebook. If you use X, formerly known as Twitter, you can find him here. You can find him right here on IG. I need you to connect with this brother. He book coming out. What's the name of your book coming out, Doc?
In the Spirit, in the Dark, Black Music and Political Activism.
In the music. I'm sorry, in the music. In the spirit.
In the Spirit, in the Dark, Black Music and Activism. It's available on all platforms for pre-order already. February 3rd, 2026 is coming. That's my firstborn.
Listen.
My illusion.
If you are a regular watcher, listener, follower of this podcast, go ahead and get your pre-order. Go ahead and get your pre-order, because the whole purpose of this podcast is to build community. That's why it's called the network. That's why it's called the network. Before we get up out of here, I need you to hit like, subscribe, smash that bell so you never miss an episode. Once again, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give us that 5-star review. All right. It helps us to grow this community. Follow us on IG at podcast_with_Prejean. It looks like this. I got it in here somewhere. Let's see. I don't have it in here somewhere. There we go. All right. Scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Listen, this is the network. Your spot for elevating mind, body, spirit, and finances as we navigate this life together. Subscribe to the network, because you never know, you might need it. My name is Michael Prejean for Dr. Naja Baptist. Until next time, I need y'all to do one thing and one thing only. Y'all see it right here behind me. Let's make love the culture. Doc, thank you. Hang back with me just for 1 second.
Ain't no problem.